Tokyo 2020/21 has come to a close, and what an awesome tournament it was. The Olympics, I always look forward to the Olympics every 4 years. Obviously, with the pandemic, there was a year delay. That's why it's the 2020/21 games. I always look forward to amateur games because these are the best that each country has to offer as it relates to these sports. They're in amateur rankings, of course, but the athletes that show up to represent their countries go through tournament after tournament after tournament, facing off against the very best that the other countries have to offer, the very best from around the world, and they basically swim through the muddy waters, right, of that is competition, until we start seeing the very best come out. And that's what the Olympics encompass, that the very best athletes from around the world compete against one another, often breaking records, not just Olympic records, but often world records that have stood the test of time for years or decades at that. And when you see these moments, when you witness these moments live, it's second to none. And this is what the Olympic Games represent. This is what the Olympic Games mean to me. I love tuning into them since I was a young kid. It was always so much fun to watch the swim competitions, track and field, of course. And we've seen from the Michael Phelps to the Michael Johnson of the past to Usain Bolt, the Dream Team in 1992. I mean, you name it. It's left some great moments in history, and in two of the sports that I paid attention to the most, although I watched a lot of soccer, I watched the swim competitions, I watched track and field, I even watched some gymnastics, shot put, disc throw, javelin, you name it. The long jump. I was watching quite a bit, watched some judo as well, but the two sports that obviously caught my mind, and the ones that I really wanted to focus on, and I did my best to either wake up in the middle of the night or tune in really early in the morning, because that's the times that I was getting these events aired stateside, at least for where I'm at in the country. While they were going on in prime time over in Tokyo, we were getting them at odd times of the day. I did my best to keep track of boxing. Part 1 of the Tokyo 2020/21 Olympic recap was dedicated to not just Team USA boxing, but the boxing tournament in itself, in which we covered and talked about several different countries that left a mark on the boxing world in the way they represented themselves. This tournament, this Olympic tournament, and this is part 2. And I want to go ahead and focus on wrestling, because there were some movie type moments. These are some sure shot performances that I have no doubt that will become Hollywood scripts at some point in the next few years. So we dive into wrestling. Of course, this is freestyle, Greco-Roman style wrestling. One of the guys, Team USA Boxing, of course, is going to be the scope, right? My scope is through Team USA Boxing, but of course, I'll be mentioning other wrestlers from other countries who are standouts as well. So the focus, of course, for Team USA Wrestling, one of the names that had the most notoriety in recent memory, and who had a huge push and momentum on his side leading into these Olympic Games, was Kyle Dake. Kyle Dake is a decorated collegiate wrestler. He's one who accomplished a rare feat by having won 4 NCAA championships in 4 different weight classes, and had his sights finally set on Olympic gold. Kyle Dake gained even more notoriety after he defeated the 2012 gold medalist Jordan Burroughs. Jordan Burroughs had not lost in his weight class in the past decade, and Kyle Dake defeated him and eliminated him from participating in these Olympics with that victory. Kyle Dake had a lot of momentum coming into this tournament, and he had some upsets. He came close to competing for the 74 kilogram division this past week, competing for gold, I should say. He came close to getting himself into that gold match. However, it was a huge upset. Something happened with Kyle Dake where he was just bested. He was off his game. He was not performing like we're used to seeing him and how he was performing in the tournament. But he had a tough tournament as a whole. He suffered a stunning upset in his bid to heading for gold as he fell 11-0. He lost 11-0 to Makhmed Katsimakhmedov from Belarus. So that's a mouthful. Makhmed Katsimakhmedov from Belarus. 11-0 performance against Kyle Dake, who had all this momentum behind him, and he was off his game against and bested by the Belarusian. With that loss, Dake ended up getting himself falling into the bronze medal fight, and which is still a huge feat to be able to get in there. But Kyle Dake was expected to have walked away with the gold in this tournament. Of course, that was a stunning upset that he suffered at the hands of the Belarusian fighter, and Kyle Dake found himself competing for Olympic bronze against another decorated wrestler. This wrestler has a long history of being one of the top names in that 74 kilogram division, and that is, of course, Frank Camiso out of Italy. He was the 2016 Olympic bronze medalist, and now he was once again bidding for a bronze medal in this tournament, and against none other than Kyle Dake. Kyle Dake bested him. Kyle Dake defeats Camiso 5-0, secures the bronze medal, and avoids coming home empty-handed. As for the gold medal was Zaurbek Sidakov, a man who holds victories over international level fighters. Frank Camiso, who we just mentioned, was fighting or wrestled against Kyle Dake for the bronze medal. Zaurbek Sidakov has victories over Frank Camiso. He holds a victory over Jordan Burroughs. He defeated Katsimakhmedov in this tournament to secure the gold and remain as the very best in the world at the 74 kilogram division as it stands now. Zaurbek Sidakov is the man to beat, walks away with the gold, and his resume looks even better. We move on to another Team USA wrestler who ended up doing or performing admirably, and it was kind of a magical moment, right? No pun intended. His nickname, he's been nicknamed as the Magic Man. This is David Taylor, of course, that I'm referring to. He competes in the 86 kilogram division, and he defeated Iranian wrestler, Iranian wrestler Yasta Nicharati to win the gold for the 86 kilogram division. Taylor took the lead with 15 seconds left in the match, and he secured a victory with a 4-3 score as the clock wound down to 0. The Magic Man, David Taylor, walked away with the gold for the 86 kilogram division. And then we move on to the story of Team USA and the Olympics, at least one of the two stories that stole the hearts of everybody and stole the attention. This is 21-year-old Gable Dan Steveson. He defeated the 3-time world champion and the number 1 seed coming into the Olympics in Georgian Gino Petriashvili. Gino Petriashvili loses to Steveson and walks away with the silver as Gable Steveson secured the gold in the 125 kilogram division. Gable Steveson, after taking an early lead, he found himself down on points as the clock was winding down. He was down 8-7 with 8 seconds left in the match. He was down 8-7 with 8 seconds left and secured his final 2 points, 0.8 and 0.9, with only 1 second remaining on the clock to tie and win the gold medal from Petriashvili. It was an amazing performance. It was a movie-like performance that you watch this and it's kind of like a Mighty Duck or a Miracle style ending where you're like, of course, we already know he's going to win. It's just how's he going to do it, right? And then the crowd goes wild. Well, it was that type of performance. It was a script-like type performance. Gable Steveson Stevenson secures a victory as the clock hit 0, secures those final 2 points to walk away with the gold. Awesome performance. And if you didn't see it, go to YouTube. YouTube has the full fight, I believe, in its entirety. So just check that out. And you won't be disappointed. It was amazing talent. And it was something that I didn't expect that it was going to go down as the clock is winding down. It sucked that I was thinking, wow, 1 point shy of walking away with the gold medal, and the clock hits 1 second and he goes for it. He goes for broke, and sure enough, it paid off as he won with the last second turning to 0. Stevenson, of course, nicknamed Gable. And if that doesn't ring a bell, well, he's nicknamed after the legendary wrestler who later turned coach for the University of Iowa in Dan Gable. If you don't know who Dan Gable is for wrestling, please look up Dan Gable. Many books, many documentaries, many podcasts, many videos made on him. Dan Gable is a legend of wrestling. Dan Gable put Iowa on the wrestling map and carried the state of Iowa to the world stage with his performances back in 1971 and 72. He was a collegiate champion, a world champion, an Olympic gold medalist, and is highly regarded as the GOAT of wrestling. There's a name that often comes up, right? Alexander Karelin is the one who people usually refer to as the GOAT. And you're right. If you consider Alexander Karelin as the GOAT in Olympic wrestling, you would be correct. He is definitely by far the most decorated and the GOAT as it relates to Olympic wrestling. But the all-around legend, as an all-around encompassing legend, Dan Gable is hailed as the greatest of all time to do it, both as a wrestler and as a coach post his wrestling career. So when it encompasses the full spectrum of a full career, Dan Gable is why he's the standard of excellence as it relates to wrestling. Another name that often pops up is Cael Sanderson. He's the collegiate wrestling GOAT. He set and broke the most records, set the most records. He's the standard for collegiate wrestling. Cael Sanderson is the GOAT of collegiate wrestling. Alexander Karelin is the GOAT of Olympic wrestling. Dan Gable is just remarkable. The stats that he's amassed in his wrestling career, both on the mat and as a high school and college coach. If you want to see what Dan Gable's record was, Dan Gable's record combined on the mat as high school and college, as a high school and college wrestler, he had 182 victories to 1 defeat. That's high school and college combined as a wrestler. 182 victories to 1 defeat. And his defeat, his sole defeat, came in his very last fight of his wrestling career. After winning his first 117 matches at Iowa State, including 2 NCAA championships, the 3-time All-American suffered his lone defeat in 1970 in the NCAA final. 117 matches at Iowa State of the 182 victories that he had, or 183 matches, right? 182-1. Of the 183 matches, 117 of those came when he was at Iowa State. That lone defeat in 1970 came at the hands of Larry Owings. Larry Owings, out of the University of Washington, holds that nod over Dan Gable, and that goes down in the history books for Larry Owings. Of course, that he's gonna take that with him to his very last breath. That he's the man that stopped the legendary Dan Gable. Gable rebounded. He starred in international competition. He ended up reaching his peak by winning the gold medal at the 1972 Olympics. And one of the amazing things that he did in that tournament in 1972 is that he didn't surrender a single point in 6 matches. Then we move on to his career as a coach. As a coach, he amassed 15 national titles. 9 of those 15 titles came in consecutive fashion from 1978 to 1986, with an overall coaching record of 355 victories to 21 defeats and 5 draws. So what Gable Steveson just accomplished was huge in its own right, because to carry a name or a nickname, a moniker like that of Gable, you can't come up short in a tournament of this magnitude. So if it wasn't as if it wasn't enough pressure, right, that you're competing in the Olympic Games, that you've made it to that point just to compete in the Olympic Games and represent your country, but to get to the gold medal round, the added pressure that comes with that, as if that wasn't enough pressure, neither one of those being enough pressure for Dan Steveson, then he still carries the moniker of Gable. So he has to go for broke. He has to perform big. And he did. That's a huge weight on his shoulders. And he performed to every bit of his potential. Steveson, of course, could not have had a more perfect Olympic performance, and an ending at that. He wins the gold medal in exciting fashion as the clock struck 0. So we move on to another story that caught the eye of the wrestling world. Snyder-Liev 3 took place at the Olympics. Snyder-Liev, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up Snyder-Liev 1, go look up Snyder-Liev 2. Snyder-Liev 3 took place at the Olympics. The showdown that everybody was looking forward to was the matchup between Captain America, Kyle Snyder, and the Russian Tank in Abdul-Rashid Sadullayev. Of course, the Russian Tank against Captain America. Why was this considered Snyder-Liev 3? Well, Kyle Snyder and Sadullayev, Snyder-Liev was born. And Snyder-Liev 3 is the third time that they were going to face against one another. These two have been on a collision course since their first showdown back in 2017, and also hailed in 2017 as the greatest match in history. And it was such a good match, and the scope on that match was so big around the world that they had to bill it as Snyder-Liev. Kyle Snyder pulled out the victory down the stretch to win the Paris 2017 gold with a score of 6-5. Snyder won. Snyder-Liev 1 went to Kyle Snyder. The two would meet a year later in a rematch that was billed Snyder-Liev 2 at the World Championships in Budapest 2018. Sadullayev pinned Snyder in what was a huge upset ending for Snyder. Sadullayev pinning Snyder in only a minute 12 into the match and secured the gold. It didn't go down to points. It didn't go down to the end. Sadullayev cemented himself as the more dominant wrestler with the dominant pin of Kyle Snyder in a minute 12 into the match and secured the gold. Kyle Snyder suffered several setbacks along the way after that match and injuries for the year that preceded, and managed to win the bronze medal in several competitions, while Sadullayev was dominating each and every one of those competitions, staying at the top of the ranks. These two, again, were destined to meet one another here in Tokyo, and the rubber match was billed as Snyder-Liev 3. Everybody was looking forward to seeing these two in the final. It was almost like these two, unless they had an upset type performance like the one that Kyle Dake suffered in that 74 kilogram division, unless it was something like that happened unexpected or unforeseen, these two were destined to be in the final, and it was almost a given that they were going to see each other in the final. And sure enough, they did. Both of these men mauled through their competition, positioning themselves in this final. Snyder-Liev 3 was set The nerves, the anticipation, the excitement was there once again for a match that would not disappoint. Abdulrashid Tajilayev pulled out all the stops on this one. It was a defensive, masterful showdown by Sadyulayev, and he ends up walking away with the victory in match points 6-3. Sadyulayev walks away with the Olympic gold. Snyder, unable to repeat gold from Rio 2016, walks away with the silver this go around. Sadyulayev was the best in the world at 86 kilograms before he moved up to 97 kilograms to challenge Snyder, and he dominated the 86 kilogram division, and now he dominates and sits atop the 97 kilogram division as the absolute best in the world. Abdulrashid Sadyulayev, the gold medal winner in Tokyo, and hands down the absolute best wrestler there is in the world at the moment in 97 kilograms. Enough said. Snyder-Layev 3, done. Amazing storylines, each of those that we've just covered. And with that said, I want to give you guys a feel-good story, because that's how we'll close this one out. We'll close the episode with this sweetheart, feel-good type story of the Summer Games, possibly of the entire Summer Games, but definitely in the wrestling world. It caught people's attention, and that, of course, I'm referring to Tamyra Mensah-Stock. Tamyra Mensah-Stock had an amazing performance. The post-match interviews were second to none, tear-jerkers at that, and very heartfelt, very emotional, and you couldn't be anything but happy and excited for this young athlete. Tamyra Mensah-Stock, let's do a little recap as to her history. Tamyra Mensah-Stock was a track and field star who turned wrestler thanks to her sister Takira convincing her and telling her to give the sport a shot. This is, of course, during their high school years. By age 15, Tamyra Mensah-Stock began to find her niche and experience early success in her wrestling journey as a high school sophomore. This, of course, is the tearjerker part, right? Because there's a lot of emotion behind her performances, a lot of emotion with her journey leading up to the performance that we witnessed during these Olympics and during this final match with Tamyra Mensah-Stock. The journey began, of course, with her father taking her, being by her side, of course, each and every competition, taking her to her competitions, and a journey and a story that, with so much early promise, nearly came to a complete halt, to a complete end, to where we wouldn't have known who Tamyra Mensah-Stock was, or we wouldn't have witnessed Tamyra Mensah-Stock reaching her full potential like she did. This, of course, was all going to come to an end after tragedy struck not just Tamyra, but the entire family, when her father was involved in a tragic car accident that claimed his life. This was a fatal accident where her father succumbed to his injuries while on his way back from one of her high school competitions. And just like that, of course, bigger things in the world, bigger things in life to focus on than that of a sport, than that of a passion or a hobby when it relates to losing a loved one or involving family tragedy or personal tragedy at that. This, of course, was enough reason for Tamyra to just have turned her back on the sport, being that she was tying so much to it, and her father passing away after driving back from one of her competitions and succumbing to his injuries at the hands of a fatal car accident was enough for Tamyra to just call it a day and just go on about her life. She nearly quit the sport, but the support that she had around her and the drive, determination within her kept her pushing forward. She got back into wrestling, and nothing short of an inspiring story from Tamyra Mensah-Stock. She got back into wrestling. She had a decorated collegiate wrestling career, and to accompany her many successes, Tamyra collected a total of 8 gold medals and 1 bronze medal in international competition between 2017 and 2019. I'll tell you again, 8 gold medals and 1 bronze between 2017 and 2019 in international competition. Holy crap. And now all those accomplishments, that journey culminated at these Olympic Games here in Tokyo with the Olympic gold medal win. She entered the Olympics as the number 1 ranked wrestler in the world at the 68 kilogram division. She outscored her opponents 30-4 in her matches leading to the gold medal match. In the gold medal match, she defeats Nigeria's Oboroduru on a 4-1 point victory, and she secured the gold and her status as the best wrestler in the 68 kilogram division in the world. She became the second woman in U.S. history to win Olympic gold in freestyle wrestling. And without a doubt, her beautiful personality, her humble story will surely carry her to become a household name without a doubt. Beautiful story, beautiful smile. The humility that she carries herself with is just, it's contagious. And if you have little ones, that post-fight interview is one that you wanna show them. Have them watch that, because it's just a heartwarming speech that she gives. So humble, so genuine, of a personality. What does Tamyra Mensah-Stock want to do now? She said with her Olympic winnings, she was going to utilize it to purchase her mother a food truck. It's been a dream of her mom's to own a food truck, and as a small business. And Tamyra Mensah-Stock is going to put the money towards that. So her winnings, her Olympic winnings, towards seeing her mom's dream, her mother's dream come true, come to reality. She also expressed dreams and aspirations of joining the World Wrestling Entertainment business, the WWE, and to which Triple H ended up responding that the doors were open if she was really willing to delve into this option and exploit it. Then Triple H opened the doors for her. So the WWE is willing to take her in. This would be another successful story, Olympic type story, just like the one that we witnessed in years past, that of an Olympic champion in Kurt Angle. He was a gold medal winner in Olympic wrestling as well back in the 90s. Ronda Rousey, of course, an Olympic medalist in judo, and she competed both in the UFC at the culmination of her career in MMA, right? We saw her in Strikeforce, many other smaller organizations leading up to Strikeforce. Then the UFC transitioned over to the WWE and broke many records there as well. So she was a former Olympic champ herself. Kurt Angle, as far as wrestling is concerned, he was another Olympic gold medalist. Tamyra Mensah-Stock would be a second Olympic gold medalist and wrestler in wrestling, I guess I should say, to join the WWE ranks, should that come to fruition. So Tamyra Mensah-Stock will close this part 2 recap of the Tokyo Olympics. What an amazing tournament it is. And here we go to another 3 years until we see the next Olympic Games. Amazing stories in boxing, in wrestling, which are the ones that I focused on mostly. And then, of course, throughout soccer, throughout track and field, swim, Caleb Dressel did some amazing records and some amazing swim performances. You name it. There was some amazing performances through and through. And these stories that we saw here in boxing and wrestling were second to none. Cuban boxers represented. And here, Gable, Dan Stevenson, the Magic Man, Kyle Dake, coming up short in his aspirations, but still walks away with a medal. And Tamyra Mensah-Stock just takes the cake with her heartwarming story. So I leave you guys with that. This concludes part 2 of the Tokyo coverage, Tokyo Olympics 2020/21. Hope you guys enjoyed these last 2 episodes, and I'll talk to you all soon. Take care of yourselves. See you on the next episode.